The Preamble of the South Island Child and Family Law. The member nations assert our inherent right and sacred responsibility to care for the children and families within our territories. We believe our children are gifts from the Creator to their families and our communities. Our children are sacred. Our children are loved and valued. Our children are our teachers. Our children will be our leaders. Our children are our future. To protect our children, we must support and care for our families and communities. Our member nations' inherent right and sacred responsibility to care for our children emanates from our laws outlined within our land, beliefs, teachings, stories, languages, oral histories, ways of being, ceremonies, songs, and dances. As those who have lived on and cared for these lands since time immemorial, the member nations affirm our obligation to take care of guests within our territories. The member nations affirm that our communities have always had laws and ways of supporting and nurturing our children, youth, and families. The member nations recognize the harm that Canadian laws and policies regarding Indigenous children and families have done to our children, families, and communities through their disruption of our legal and cultural processes. However, despite this disruption, the laws and the culture of our people have persisted. The member nations maintain that our people are best positioned to remedy the harms to our people and to begin the long and difficult process of bringing healing to our nations, communities, families, and children through incorporating our laws, culture, languages, and ways of being into our child and family services. The member nations recognize that healing for our people stems from the sense of belonging that is rooted in the knowledge of our identity, our origins, and the connections we share as Indigenous peoples. For the last 20 years, the member nations have asserted that while we are an assembly of nations, each representing the interests of their own nation, we are committed to work with one heart and one mind to develop an Indigenous law and an Indigenous child and family services system that is integrated and that serves the needs of all our children and families. Therefore, the member nations affirm this as a living law to govern our people, with the future of our people always in mind as we walk together in one spirit for the best interests of our children today and for generations to come. Our member nations will work with Canada and its provinces and territories to implement this law in a new nation-to-nation relationship.